How to prepare for a child custody evaluation home visit. Do I know anything about that? Well, I used to do them, so listen in. Your child custody evaluation home visit. How do you prepare for that? At Live on Purpose TV, we bring in people who have a little bit of experience, and I did that today. This is my friend Sid Unrau. Say hello, Sid.
Hi. Good to be here.
Now that we've got the introductions out of the way,
Yeah.
Sid and I got to know each other years ago when I was doing child custody evaluations for the court, and I always included a home visit.
Yes.
Because if I'm going to make a recommendation to the judge about where these kids are going to live, I want to have some firsthand knowledge about where they have been living or where they're going to be living.
Perfect.
So I would naturally go into that environment. Now, Sid, you've been on the other end of this, where you've represented parents typically
Yeah.
in a child custody case, but you know how judges think too.
Yes.
So I think that's part of the knowledge we need to pull out of you today.
Yeah.
Okay? What do you think is the most important thing for someone to know as they prepare for their child custody evaluation home visit?
It's a case-by-case thing what's most important, but the thing that comes up the most is that the evaluator reports that there's something obviously wrong with the home. For example, dog poop on the beds, glass in the yard, things like that, things that are obviously
Obvious
dangerous.
stuff.
Yeah, super obvious. So having minimal cleaning and a sort of a natural clean environment, it doesn't have to look like it's not lived in. I've had custody evaluators report back to me that sometimes the house is absolutely pristine and they're positive the house isn't always like that. And I know my house isn't always like that.
You know
So-
what? I used to put in my notes, sometimes to the judge, I would tell him there's a state of unnatural tension.
Yeah.
You know, when you walk into a place and you just know that as soon as you leave, everything's going to fall from where it was back to where it used to be.
Right.
So that's what you're talking about there.
Yeah, that's sort of obvious. Another obvious thing that I get a lot of feedback about is that parents seem to just want to talk about the other parent. Even though they're at their own home visit, they want to talk about the other parent. They want to talk about how bad it is. They want to talk about, see, we have this bed here for our child. The other side, they have to sleep on the couch. Things like that. And that's also just the wrong approach.
You know what I just thought of?
Yeah.
What if you just invite the other parent over for your home visit?
Exactly.
How silly would that be?
Exactly.
It's not about them.
Right.
You showcase your brilliance right now. Okay?
Exactly.
And you don't fake it because that causes the unnatural tension. So you want to be real. You mentioned the safety things, Sid. That stuff is obvious. Look, if you're having a problem with safety concerns, we've got other concerns about this custody situation. So get yourself up to speed. Now, this brings something up that I think is important. You may realize, or people may give you a heads up to, some changes that you need to make personally, whether that's about safety or the appropriateness of sleeping arrangements, for example. You know what? I've got... And be transparent, okay? If your kid is sleeping with you in your bed, just be transparent about that, because I'm going to ask the kid, and I can usually tell when they're lying or when they're trying to do a script or cover for mom or dad.
Right.
I've been into homes where it's like this beautiful little bedroom for the child, right?
Right.
And the kid is going through this little script of, this is my room, right? And they're all excited. And then I pull them aside and I say, so where do you sleep? Oh, in there with mom.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and that brings up another thing. Don't try to get the kids to say a certain thing. Don't coach them on what to say. And
please.
I know parents say they never coach their kids. Oh, I never tell them what to say. I just tell them to tell the truth. But the truth is, I feel the coaching all the time. People bring kids into my office because I'm a special master, which means I'm sort of like a minor judge sometimes. And when I get the parents out of there and start talking to the kids, I hear almost always a different story than what I heard from either of the parents.
Right.
And I'm sure that's what evaluators go through as well. So, and you're in the home environment, the kids are more used to it, I guess, and I think they can be more relaxed. Or they could be more tense if they've been coached. And I think the evaluator can tell that.
Which is a great point, because as an evaluator, often what I was looking for is not how pristine is this home. I mean, I would go into places and there's bread baking in the oven and there's potpourri simmering on the stove. Please, You know, this is not a Pinterest contest.
Well, unless they share the bread.
Well, there's that.
No.
But here's what I'm looking for. I don't care about all that stuff, okay? Don't care.
Right.
As long as the fundamental safety and provisions for that child's needs are in place, I'm good with whatever your home looks like. What I'm looking for is how that child is feeling and interacting and being in that environment. And if you're coaching them, if you've set up a whole bunch of fake stuff for the evaluation, these kids are going to pick up on that quickly, and that's what I'm going to notice. I don't care about all the facades. I'm going to notice how that child is feeling. And the very best thing you can do, this happens way before the home visit, okay? You set up the most sane, stable, loving, comfortable, provided environment that you possibly can for your child. And you do that not for the home visit. You do that because that's the right thing to do for you and for your child. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Well, and that also brings up, think about what the whole focus is here. Is the focus on what's best for the child, or is the focus on showing that I'm the better parent?
Right.
And if you think about what's best for the child, and this is just my experience, most custody evaluators come out pretty even. They don't come out that one parent is just totally won and the other parent's totally lost. They come out pretty even.
Right.
And in these days, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the law is such that 50-50 custody or something close to that is often recommended by custody evaluators, because the truth is that either parent can probably handle it.
Right.
And so what the evaluators are looking for are things that really stick out. And if there's a bunch of tension and things like that, then
that's going to stick out.
That's going to stick out. And it's also harder to discern what the truth is. So
right.
you got to be careful about that and focus on what's best for the kids, and realize that it may be best for the kids not to just be with one parent or the other most of the time.
There's always paradoxes
Yeah.
in psychology, and one of the paradoxes that I think we've identified here, and you'll see this from your experience too, Sid, the home visit is not about the home.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not about, as long as it's adequate. Now, if it's not adequate, you probably don't have any business having custody of that child if another person can provide an adequate environment. That sounds harsh, but you know what? At a very fundamental level, most people have an adequate environment. Don't worry about the home. You make sure that you're setting up a culture and an environment for this child that is healthy and is not characterized by the conflict of fighting with the other parent. It's not characterized by coaching them to try to make you look good. See, we get our focus back on the child, and then things get a lot better.
Right. And then from a judge's perspective, judges always have the law to go by. And the first thing in the law is, where does the child live or the children live right now? Is there a good reason to change that? And if there's not some big danger or some big problem with changing that, then that's a big hurdle to overcome. And then the next one is what the child wants. Now, the child doesn't really count directly. The child only counts indirectly. Never, ever ask a child, where do you want to live? Ever.
Oh.
Now, I don't know how psychologists handle that, but I counsel my clients not to do that. Unfortunately, in the media, you see that in movies and TV shows all the time. Well, where do you want to live? I don't care. Just tell me where you want to live. Never, ever do that.
No.
Don't do that, ever.
In fact,
just let it just flow.
Yes, in fact, you just led into something beautifully, because we're doing another video. You can link to it right up in that corner about 5 mistakes that will lose your child custody case. So make sure you watch that one too. Sid, will you hang around for that?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
That'll be fun.
Thanks to my attorney friend, Sid Unrau. We've got some nice insights about how to do that. Share this with someone who would benefit.